In the last video, we got the battery pack off of the car. Then we found out that the main fuse cover was completely rusted away and letting in water. After pulling out the fuse, we actually saw that there was standing water under the fuse. We also took off the bump cover and found some condensation inside this area as well. So we pulled out the fans and let the battery dry out overnight. In the meantime, I headed to the hardware store to get some sealant, hose, and try to find some material to make a new fuse cover. Once the battery pack was completely dry, we temporarily reassembled it. We put the bump cover back on with a couple of screws, reinstalled the coolant quick disconnect, and then got to work on the fuse, cleaning off any corrosion that was on there and reinstalling it. Even though there are aftermarket parts available, I only had so much time to work on this project. I couldn't wait a week for a part to show up in the mail, so I made my own. I found some stainless steel sheet metal at my local full-service hardware store. I traced out the original fuse cover onto the sheet metal with a Sharpie marker and then used a center punch to mark where the holes were. I drilled out the holes on my drill press and cut it out with a tin snips. I think the new fuse cover actually looks like it's a pretty good match. Fits the size there. At least I was pretty happy with the results. We installed the new stainless steel fuse cover using fasteners but not any sealant or caulk. We didn't use any caulk at all putting the battery pack back together because this was just temporary. We did seal all the seams with duct tape so that when putting the battery pack back on, if there was any leak of the coolant, it wouldn't get into the fuse or the battery pack. So now we're pretty much ready to temporarily reinstall the battery pack. One issue that I found is that this battery pack is just so heavy that even with the weight spread out to multiple casters, an older caster can actually end up getting jammed or stuck. But an adjustable wrench, just sized to the caster, was a great way to be able to manually rotate it. With the caster in the right direction, then we could push the battery pack how we needed to. To make sure that the battery pack would be perfectly aligned, we used threaded rods. These threaded rods screwed up into the 4 corner holes of where the battery pack would mount, and then we lined up the battery so that the corner holes on that matched up with the threaded rod. The threaded rod would also help nudge the battery pack one direction or another as we raised it up. With the threaded rods in and the battery pack centered, we could start jacking it up. The other important thing here is to keep both the battery pack and the car level. Since I had that issue with the air suspension at the back right, I actually jacked up the car body independent of the suspension to get the car nice and level. And then also with jacking this up, once we got the hydraulic table under the battery, it was easier to keep the battery nice and level as well. Once the battery was getting pretty close to the body, we also used the endoscope just to make sure that those quick disconnects at the back of the battery pack were lining up the way they were supposed to. With the battery pack all the way up, we inserted a couple of the original bolts between the battery and the frame just to hold the battery in place temporarily. And unfortunately, even after all that work, the error persisted. We'd have to use some software to clear out the error to make the car drivable. And we'll cover that in the next video. We hope you like these videos. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on alerts so that you know when the next video in this series comes out. And until next time, stay charged up